The 49ers defense now holds the NFL record with most consecutive games without an interception. That's not the kind of record that you want to hold, but that's not on Robert Saleh. That is on John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan for hiring Nick Sorensen to be the defensive coordinator after Steve Wilks. Nick Sorensen, as you know, had an absolutely abysmal tenure as defensive coordinator and was let go a year later. Now bring in Robert Saleh, who is probably one of the best defensive coordinators in the game, and he had to try to pick up where Nick Sorensen kind of dropped the ball in Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch. Now, they could have ended the streak yesterday, but Fred Warner had 2 dropped interceptions, which he should have had. But also, Upton Stout was robbed by an absolutely atrocious call by the referees on the comeback, almost returning the interception for a touchdown, but it was called back due to holding/pass interference. Now, if you watch the play, was there a little hands on the jersey? Absolutely. There is that on every single play. But to call that kind of call when you haven't been calling it all game and to call it in that situation was absolutely atrocious. I believe the 49ers will get an apology letter from the NFL Referees Association like they do weekly. They do this weekly for teams like, yes, we got that play call wrong. We got this wrong. In fact, that wasn't the first mishap by the referees. In fact, the referees apologized afterward by it was supposed to be 3rd and 12, but it ended up going to 2nd and 17 when the Jaguars had it within their own 10-yard line. And while there was a second holding penalty, the referees said that the 49ers accepted it when they didn't do that. In fact, a lot of people and even the commentators thought this was a terrible call by Kyle Shanahan, but in fact, the refs got it wrong. They apologized after the fact, and they couldn't reverse the call. I don't know what needs to happen if that's a call that needs to happen from New York. But if the refs make a mistake and there hasn't been another play, they should be able to undo that thing. The 49ers called a timeout, so there was time to get that call right, but for whatever reason, they didn't do that. Now, that doesn't take away the underlying thing that the 49ers still had an atrocious game yesterday. They could have ended the interception streak with Fred Warner having his hands on 2 of those balls, but also Upton Stout did get robbed by the refs, but that's not an excuse. The 49ers lost because they played not up to par. They played down to their opponent. Yes, the Jaguars are now 3-1. They're potentially a playoff team, but the 49ers should have won that game, and they ended up losing. You can chalk it up to coaching decisions, mental mistakes. Also, Brock Purdy shouldn't have been out there and made some key mistakes with 3 turnovers. But the 49ers hopefully will end the streak this Thursday as far as consecutive games without an interception. Defense, you got to turn around. We know you can with Saleh. Rooting for you to break that streak this Thursday.